Hello, readers, and welcome back to Reading in the Middle, the show where middle grade books and picture books take center stage and authors get to tell us all the behind the scenes magic that bring them alive. I'm your host, Annisha Jeffries. Today, I'm so excited to welcome Darlene P. Campos, the author of the powerful new historical novel, The Center of the Earth. This story follows Dahlia, a young girl living in 1930s Ecuador, whose life changes when she meets Werner, a Jewish boy who has escaped Nazi Germany. It's a story of bravery, identity, and standing up for what's right, even when you're just a kid. Darlene weaves together history, family, and friendship in a way that feels honest and deeply human. And if you've ever wondered how an author turns real world events into a story that connects with young readers, you'll love this conversation. So let's begin.
Oh, Annisha, thank you for having me on the show.
Well, thank you for being on Read in the Middle. Darlene, to kick us off, can you tell us a little bit about your path to becoming an author and what made you fall in love with storytelling?
What made me fall in love with storytelling was when I was in elementary school, we would have storytellers come in, and usually they were from different backgrounds. And I remember they were usually like older women, and just hearing them sitting down and telling all these magnificent stories, it just sounded like something so impressive that I really wanted to do when I got older. So that was where the inspiration started.
What inspired you to write this story, especially set in the 1930s Ecuador during such a tense moment in world history?
Sure. So I got inspired by a documentary called An Unknown Country, which covers the lives of Jewish refugees who found safety in Ecuador during the Holocaust. And it was a topic that I had never heard of before, even though I am Ecuadorian, and I felt a little disappointed in myself that I didn't know about this history. So then as I started researching it more, I realized that there weren't too many books about this topic. There were some books written by some of the refugees, but there wasn't a book specifically like for children. And then I thought, well, if there isn't one for children, then I could be the one who writes the story.
Dahlia is such a powerful character. She's thoughtful, curious, and ultimately incredibly brave. What do you admire most about her? And was she inspired by anyone in your life?
No, so Dahlia is a completely fictional character, but I like to think that she is the child I wish I could have been. Because when I was a kid, I was very shy, I was very quiet, I was very hesitant to speak my mind. So yes, Dahlia is definitely the young girl I wish I could have been at her age.
This friendship between Dahlia and Werner is just really moving, and I just want to know what drew you to write about this kind of bond between two kids who, they come from different worlds and also they're trying to understand each other.
Yeah, that's a great question. So as I interviewed some of these Jewish refugees, one of the things they talked about was moving from one world to another, especially a whole different culture, different language, was that they were worried about making friends. They thought that they were going to be all alone. They wouldn't have a community. And they did become friends with each other, with, other children of refugees. But a lot of them did become close friends with the local Ecuadorian kids. And they would play together, especially soccer, or as we call it, football in Spanish. And they were in plays together, they were in book clubs together. And then I thought, yeah, this happened in real life. So why not portray it in the story?
And you based this story on real interviews with Holocaust survivors. How did you approach that research process? What responsibility did you feel when writing their truth into fiction?
Yeah, so that's a great question as well. So as I mentioned earlier, I am a pretty shy person. I mean, I'm an introvert by nature. And yeah, so you understand. So initially, my research was mostly reading books But then I thought, some of these refugees may still be alive, and let me see if I can find them. So what I did was I found a Facebook group called Jews of Ecuador, which is run by the children, grandchildren, and great grandchildren. So I made a post on there and I said, hi, everybody. I'm an author in Houston, Texas. I'm writing a children's book about this topic. Does anyone know someone I can get in contact with? And within an hour, I had so many responses from people saying, yes, my mother would love to talk to you. My father would love to talk to you. My grandfather left behind his account. I can email it to you. And it was just amazing, just because, I was a complete stranger to these people. And I really didn't know how to introduce myself or if these interviews were going to go well. But now, of the 8 people I originally interviewed, only 3 are still with us, unfortunately. But all of them became like adoptive grandparents to me. They treated me with so much kindness and love, and I'll never forget that.
I really love that you brought Ecuador into the middle grade historical fiction world. Can you tell our listeners why it is important for you to highlight this setting and share your Ecuadorian roots through this story?
Yeah, so that's a really great question as well. So when I was a kid, I only read one book that took place in Ecuador, and I wish I could remember the author's name, but I don't. But what I do remember was that the Ecuadorian family didn't really act like my own. And I'm not saying that, all Ecuadorians act the same or anything like that. But one of the things I remember in that book was that the family was sitting down to have dinner and they were eating rice. And the whole family was complaining that they didn't want to eat rice again. And rice is a very, very big staple in our cuisine. That sounded so bizarre. I was like, what Ecuadorian would ever say, I'm tired of rice, So I remember when I read that book, I just thought like, okay, I don't know who wrote this, but I don't think that's Ecuadorian. So because I only had the one story as a kid, it was always in the back of my mind, to write a book about Ecuador. I just didn't know what the topic would be. And thankfully, I finally found it.
You've talked about writing a whole novel in 28 days. Wow. What helps you stay focused and inspired during the writing process, even when things get tough? Because I know they do.
Yeah, and that's a great point. Every writer goes through slumps or times when just nothing is coming out. I mean, just the other day, I was watching a documentary about they call it the lost year of Laura Ingalls Wilder, the author of Little House on the Prairie, that there was a year where she just didn't write anything. But then in the documentary, they were talking about how that year she had lost her son, her family was struggling financially, and then I thought, well, of course she didn't feel like writing with something like that. You're not going to be like, you want to do anything. But there are times, such as with The Center of the Earth, that I just had so much passion that I just could not stop writing. And a friend of mine, who's also an author, her name is Donna Munoz, she calls that the heart book, that once your heart is set on a book, there's just nothing that can stop you. And this is really what that book is. Even though, yes, I have written past books with the same amount of stamina, but this book, I just had this passion and energy that the story had to be told.
Oh, yes, most definitely. So, Darlene, with the story, you also blend serious topics like injustice and war with moments of humor and hope. How do you strike that balance? And why do you think it's important for young readers?
Yes, and that is so true. So when I was growing up, I was blessed to have my maternal grandparents nearby. And I saw them very often, at least, a couple times a week. Sometimes they would pick me up after school and I would stay with them. And, we'd watch TV together, a movie or so. And then my mom would come pick me up. But my grandfather, he was a very funny man. He had a really, really good sense of humor. But he did struggle with depression a lot. And he told me that one of his ways of coping was having a sense of humor. And I also have, my own struggles with anxiety and with depression. And I remember when I was in high school, I was just having this really, really sad season. I didn't have any energy. I would just cry sometimes. Like I was having a tough time. I mean, my parents got divorced when I was in 8th grade, so I think it was just after effects of all that. And I remember my grandfather telling me, he said, "You're so young, you have so much ahead of you. Just push through as hard as you can." But at the same time, he really, really did make me laugh pretty much every time I saw him. So he taught me that even when you're having this rough season, you just have to find some humor. Otherwise, the season's going to feel even tougher.
It's such a gift to, have your grandparents and having those connections in your life. It is really, truly a gift.
Absolutely, and that's why in my fiction, especially for children, I love to include grandparents because I had such a great relationship with mine, and I I miss them both every day. Sometimes I can't even believe that they're gone because they always lived close by, and sometimes I think, wow, I can't get in my car and visit them anymore. So I really love incorporating grandparents into my stories.
Darlene, what do you hope readers walk away with after reading The Center of the Earth?
Great question. So, well, first things first is I certainly want every reader to know the history that, Ecuador was willing to step in and accept Jewish refugees at a time when all other countries had closed their borders. I mean, that one thing is very impressive for the time. But the other main message is just the power of friendship, is that if you have a solid, strong friend in your life, you are one of the most wealthiest people in the world. And sometimes we don't even think about it, but, without friends, life is not that fun. We can have families, spouses, cousins, whatever you want to call it, but yeah, friends are such a support beam for all of us.
They really are, and they're an anchor. Okay, Darlene, this is our lightning round question. This is where I ask you just a series of questions, and you don't have to think about it. Just answer them, whatever comes to mind. Are you ready? Okay, here we go. A book you wish you had written.
Oh, because of Winn-Dixie.
Favorite snack while writing.
Snack while writing is trail mix.
One place you'd love to travel.
I would love to go to Spain.
Dahlia or Werner, who would win in a game of tag?
But that's Dahlia.
Best writing advice in 5 words or less.
Never give up.
Oh, it's wonderful. So, after Center of the Earth is released, is there anything else that you can share with our listeners that's coming up after the Center of the Earth?
Sure. So the Center of the Earth comes out September 9th of this year. So we're about 7 weeks away. Oh my gosh, time is flying. Yeah, but for my next project, I'm kind of split. One of the refugees I interviewed, he had a cousin who unfortunately did not survive the Holocaust. So I do have a novel drafted about his cousin, but in my novel, he does survive. And that's the beauty of storytelling, is that if you don't like the ending of the story, you can change it. So I do have that drafted, but I also have another idea for another historical fiction novel, but one that would take place in Texas, because that was where I was born and raised. And I just thought, change of scenery and change of topic. So I'm kind of split on what I'm going to do next, but I mean, I definitely will write something in the future. I just don't know what yet.
Wow, both of those sound amazing, and I can't wait for them to come out. So when they do, we'll make sure that you are on the show so we can discuss and talk about them. I'm so excited. And yes, The Center of the Earth does come out September 9th, and that's just around the corner. It's not even here yet, but it is just around the corner. And yeah, time goes so fast. Where did it go? Right?
I know when my publishing house first told me the release date, I was like, oh yeah, that's so far away. And then it just sneaks up on you.
So, Darlene, can you tell our listeners where they can find you, your website, any social media platforms, so they can celebrate with you on the arrival of The Center of the Earth?
My website is www.darlenepcampos.com. My Instagram is at Darlene P. Campos. And I also have a Facebook page, which is Darlene P. Campos, writer.
Darlene, thank you so much for joining me today and for giving the world this wonderful, important story. The Center of the Earth is a moving tribute to history and friendship, bravery, and it belongs on every middle grade bookshelf.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. And I should mention that
Mhm.
it was not easy to get this book out into the world. It took me 7 years to find a publishing house for it,
What?
and it took over 150 rejections. So it was not an easy road, but I did it.
Well, that's a very important thing. Never give up. You hear that, listeners? You hear how many rejections Darlene had? Never give up. Always be persistent because there's someone out there that wants to uh, help you tell your story. So thank you, Darlene.
Yeah, so I would say that rejections definitely hurt, and it is hard not to take them personally. However, no matter how many rejections you get, or even if you get, one of the really, really nasty ones that it really just punches you in the gut, you're still a writer, no matter what anyone tells you. As long as you're writing something, you are still a writer, regardless of if you get one rejection, 1,000 rejections, you're still a writer, and no one can ever take that away from you. So please keep going.
Excellent advice. That's excellent advice. Thank you, Darlene. And readers, don't forget that The Center of the Earth comes out September 9th at all of your local independent bookstores and your libraries. And don't forget to reach out to Darlene on her website to celebrate her book birthday. As always, Darlene, thank you for joining me on Reading in the Middle.
Thank you. I had a great time.
Thank you. A big thank you to Darlene P. Campos for joining me today and giving readers a story that reminds us how courage and kindness can change lives. The Center of the Earth is a moving reminder that history isn't just something we read about, it's something we can feel, question, and learn from. If you're a librarian, teacher, or parent looking for a powerful book to spark discussion in your classroom or book club, this one's for you. You can check out The Center of the Earth September 9th, wherever books are sold, especially your independent bookstore. And we'll have a link to the show notes for you to explore more of Darlene's work. Don't forget to follow Reading in the Middle on your favorite podcast apps. Leave a review. If you love today's episode, share it with someone you love, someone who loves books as much as I do. Until next time, keep reading, keep questioning, and keep celebrating stories that stick with you. And always keep reading in the middle.